Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday, Candid Land. It's your girl, Miss Krystal, joining you on this Palm Sunday. Hope you had a wonderful nap. You know, that after service, after dinner nap, if you guys eat early on your Sundays. Let me tell you what, I had me a nice little nap and I feel a lot better. And if the hubby's watching, I'm so sorry. I'm just cranky. I just needed a nap, okay? Again, welcome to Candid Conversations with Miss Krystal podcast, where we are transforming through transparency. And today we have got another wonderful guest. But real quick, before we get into today's conversation, want to thank Miss Renata Frampton for joining me last week. How many of you guys enjoyed her? She was such a wonderful interview. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, and had a lot of fun having that conversation with her. And if you have a story idea, be sure to send me an email at heymisskrystal@gmail.com. Heymisskrystal@gmail.com. All right. And don't forget, go ahead. This is live, guys. So if you want to go ahead and drop your comments or questions in the chat, we will get to those coming up here in a bit. All right. Well, this week I'm getting real. Every week I am real, but this week I'm speaking with my girl, Miss Ebonee Ingram Jones. And we're talking all about, it's an interesting conversation today. Sometimes the dream doesn't look like what you pictured. I know what that feels like. And sometimes, in her case, the biggest battles aren't the bar exam, but it takes place in the break room. She is a beautiful woman. She is so loved by this community. There we go. Let's show Miss Ebonee. There she is, styling and profiling for the camera. And I think at the center of everything, who she is, a mom, is what she's most proudest of. There's her baby Brian, and her son Chase. And I'm so excited to be bringing her to the Candid Land Studios today. I wish I could see her face. There she goes, Miss Ebonee Ingram Jones. Hey, Ebonee. Why did you do the face? You didn't like the pictures?
I don't know why, girl.
Okay. You look like one of the kids in this one picture right here. Look, you look like one of the kids.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Ebonee. Thank you so much for taking time to hang out with us here on this Palm Sunday. Did you get some good religion today?
Oh yes. I did get some good white robe action this morning.
Come on.
Good and refreshing. And so yes, I did enjoy today and today's weather.
Oh
Beautiful.
my goodness. Absolutely gorgeous, right? Thank God for the sunshine. It definitely matters, you know, the couple of days that we had without any sun. So we're definitely grateful for that. Well, Ebonee, thank you so much for taking the time again to join us today. And me and Ebonee, we have an interesting connection. Okay. First off, we go to the same church, but you are what? You are the cousin of
The elder.
the elder, talking about my husband.
Yeah.
and so we connect in so many ways, but definitely a kinship between us. And you are just such a strong, powerful woman, and like everyone, you've got a story to tell. And so today's conversation is all about sharing that story, and our conversation title is the battle, and being the only one. And this is definitely going to strike a chord with those out there that knows what it feels like to be, you know, one of only, or one of only a couple of few. And that can be kind of difficult. I know exactly what that feels like. So let's take it all the way back and let's talk about the dream. You had a great career going, and then all of a sudden you decided to pivot. And you were what, in your 30s when you decided to do this pivot?
I think 37 or about to turn 37. So yeah. So I was a little long in the tooth to be considering law school. But yep, I was.
She said long in the tooth. And so where did this come from though, Ebonee? I mean, you know, you had a great career with JCPS. You as you tell it, you know, he's making good money. There was no reason for you to say, okay, let me go ahead and figure something else out. What made you do this pivot? What made you decide at the age of 37 that it was time to try something different?
Well, as you said, I was pretty happy in my life. I had my two babies. They were getting older, and just finding their way in life and doing things in their lives. I was working as a family resource coordinator for JCPS, which was a very, very rewarding job. It was something that I love to this day. I tell people, if you can get that job, that is like, if you love children and you love families and you love meeting needs, that is the perfect position. So I was really enjoying that. But as my children were growing and I was talking to them and pouring into them and encouraging them, I was kind of feeling like a hypocrite because
Mm.
I'm telling my children that they can do anything that they want and they can be anything that they can be, they want to be. And I knew that as a child, I always had a dream. So it wasn't necessarily a pivot, I would say. I would call it just I don't know. I wouldn't call it a pivot. I would call it, it was on my path anyway. It was just
Yeah.
timing. And I made up my mind I was going to make my children a believer in that. I was
Oh,
going to show them, I'm telling you that you can do anything, but I'm going to show you that you can do it. And so I took a leap of faith. And one thing about it, I had gotten accepted to law school the year before I went because I
mhm.
had too much student loan debt. I was like,
Uh-huh.
this is not the time for you to be doing that. So I had
Right.
to get, but as I was saying, the passion to be an attorney came from childhood. So I would never call it a pivot. I think I knew what I wanted to be as a millennial girl when I saw the Cosby Show.
Yes, Claire, let me go ahead and put her up.
Yes,
America's favorite mom with the attitude and those eyes, okay?
yes,
But the reason I said that is because, you was moving in your career and it's just like you literally stop and you're like, I'm going to go back and do what I want to do. And
correct.
Ebony, that's inspirational. As our pastor says all the time, he uses this analogy that the richest place you'll ever stand in is a graveyard because so many people die with hopes and dreams unfulfilled. And so here you are, deciding I'm going to finally go back and do what I've always wanted to do. And so talk about the inspiration of Claire Huxtable and that dream, kind of igniting that dream or cementing that dream.
Correct. Well, as everybody could see from that picture, she was T from top to bottom.
Come on.
Beautiful. She was well spoken. She was articulate. She was a mother. She was a wife. She sang in the church choir. She spoke Spanish. She
That's
had
right.
all these like nice friends who came over and all of these wonderful stories. And I just immediately knew, oh my goodness, I want to be just like that. I just,
Wow.
it was just her speaking to me like, oh, if I could just be like her, oh, I just knew, so.
Yeah, you always knew that you wanted to be a lawyer, and so talk about it. You graduate from high school, you go away to college. What happened to make you have to put that dream on hold?
Sure. So I went to Central High,
Whoop, whoop.
Central High, the Louisville Central High, and was a part of the law and government program there because it's a magnet, and because I was just ready to pursue a legal education, and went away to Florida A&M University. One of the best years of my life. Let me
Wow.
I could encourage any young people. There's been a lot of conversation about who can go to college and who should go to college and yada, yada, yada. Listen, you all, college is so much more than learning academics. You
Yeah.
should consider college because it socializes you in a way that you may not have the opportunity, um, just later on. Um,
Yeah.
are just some connections that you're going to form. There are just some lessons that you are only going to learn on a college campus. And so I recommend it. I understand if people still don't feel inclined to go, but try it. Even if you go for a semester, you won't be the first and you will not be the last. Try it.
Absolutely. It was a it was a good experience for you, and I regret I was too afraid to move away to go to college, so I stayed here. But the way somebody explained it before, they said the thing about college, it makes you a well-rounded individual. You get an opportunity to know a little bit about everything. So you said that you were at this school for only a year though. Why so short?
Honey, because you come home for spring break,
Uh-huh.
connect with your high school bay or whatever, and that's just what it is. And so I found out, it's so funny because I was in the Miss Black and Gold pageant up
Uh-huh.
down at Florida A&M, and I was doing all this stuff, and I was partying with the alphas, and just having a good square college life.
Mhm.
One night I went out and came home, and I was like, "Oh, I must have, had a little bit too much to drink."
Uh-huh.
And just as I laid there thinking, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if you had that much to drink."
Because it
But
began to linger, right? Yeah.
I don't know if you were, having that much. And lo and behold, and it's so crazy. Lo and behold, I found out I was pregnant, and I waited until Easter Sunday to tell my mama that I was pregnant because
Ooh.
there were two guarantees on Easter Sunday.
Uh-huh.
Mother was going to be in a good mood, gonna go to church and hear a good word, and she was gonna have dinner. And so I knew if I called her on that day, she would take it the best. So that's what I did. And
Look, we all want to know how'd that conversation go though. Was she in a good mood? Did you do it during dinner?
yeah, I mean, I called, I'd say around after I knew she'd been to church, I'd say I called about 3:30 or 4, I'd say.
Hmm.
And I called her all feeble mouth and all that, and I could hear her. I think she's still snacking now that I think about it, because I remember her like smacking in my ear.
So were you on the college campus when you
I
told
was
her this?
Yes, I was at school,
You
and
was
she's
at school.
in Kentucky. And I'm like, hey, just how was church? Oh, Rev did an excellent job. Great. Yeah, just all the Easter things.
Yeah.
And I say, well, I made a mistake, Mama. And she says, mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, why she say, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm pregnant. And she said, oh, okay. And then I won't necessarily tell.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But you
And when I'll have to get her permission to do that, because that I don't think she would mind, but I like to confirm, because that was a very personal, private conversation.
absolutely. And so you made the decision to come back to Louisville. And so why didn't you try to pursue law when you came back home though, although not being there in Florida? No.
I mean, you come home, and I always believed, once you're a mother, that's what you are. That
Yeah.
else takes a back seat, including yourself. And so when I came home, I attended JCC
Hmm.
for a semester, and then I gave birth to Ryan November 30th. And so I was able to do that. And it was a miserable, miserable semester, coming from FAMU, and then going to JCC to at least feel like I was doing something. And then, you have a baby that you have to feed.
Yeah.
And so I then began to think, okay, I got to get a job. And so I was working, and got a job at Bell South. And back in the day, if you got you a Bell South gig, honey, you was popping.
Yes.
I got my little Bell South gig so that I could take care of my daughter. And soon after I had baby Ryan, I got married, which
Mm.
was a damn fool. I don't know if I should have said damn.
Hey, kind of conversations, okay? That's
Yeah.
fine. That's your truth.
Another thing, young girls, don't you ever get married at no 22 years old. You understand? Your auntie.
Right. Live your life. That's right, Auntie. Tell the girls.
Yes, yes, yes. There's so much you to know, baby. Focus on that. But anyway, that's on the side.
Right. So let's fast forward. You came home, you had your beautiful baby girl, and then you got married, and then you had a son. And it just kind of seems as if life fast forward and there you are. And
Absolutely.
then and
And
then you decided to go back for your dream.
yeah, no, and not even that. I was like, I want to learn, I want to do something, but I just didn't feel confident enough to go to law school. I mean, go and have that on my brain. And so I went to school for education. Um,
Uh-huh.
I did have a passion for teaching. I was, my cousin Shamika would always kids with me about how when we were kids, I would like make as the big cousin, make her play school with me. How much I loved it. And so I thought it would had a good schedule, that I could be a good mom, but still have a career. And so I went to school. I went to IUS over in New
Mhm.
Albany.
That's where I went. Mhm.
It was a wonderful experience for me as a non-traditional student. I was able to, I really felt like I got a really good education, but it was right across the river and it wasn't really expensive. And so I did that, and I loved education. To say that I was challenged, no. I,
Mhm.
it was a lot of things that I learned
Mhm.
going through that, but just I wasn't challenged, and but yeah, so that's how that went. And yeah, so just got to working and doing that, and just kind of keeping my kids as my priority, and making sure that whatever choices that I was making was going to impact them positively. So
Absolutely. And so then your kids became of age, and you decided that now was the time for you to be able to go back and achieve that dream that was always in your heart. So talk about that, entering into law school at the ripe age of 37. That's still really young though. Go ahead.
yeah, well, even I mean, I don't even know if you realize this, but the about a couple of weeks or so before I started law school, I was arrested on a felony charge, a
Whoa.
one felony charge. And yeah, when I got a full black woman story. So
Come on. Look, we got time today. You was arrested.
yes, I was fully
What
arrested
happened?
home. I had a stalker for 7 years or so.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
Very, very, very trying time in my life. Yeah, so that's how that happened. So I went to jail, honey. Somebody who had never gone to jail went to jail, and the next week I was going to law school. So
I know that's right.
it,
And the reason you went to jail, tell them why you went to jail, because I know a lot of people are like, well, she had the stalker, she wasn't doing it. What happened? Real quick, the
um,
Cliff Note version.
or something like I said, stalker for a long time. Someone I was previously in a relationship with. Um, you know how that works. Sometimes people just live in delusion. And
Yeah,
coming to my home with my children,
yeah.
it was a very, very, very terrifying experience. And I had to do what I had to do.
You had to defend yourself. And so we'll
And but at that time, I was not considered the victim.
hmm
So it was very psychologically challenging to know that you were defending yourself against this constant and kind of hovering threat, but
hmm
looking at me like, oh, you just wanted to, shoot this man. And I'm like, no, it was very, I was not treated as a victim of domestic violence. I was treated
mm,
as a defendant. And yeah, so that can mess with you psychologically. Uh,
yeah.
so
You got through that situation, thank God. And so you was like, listen, now's the time. And so you went into law school. Talk about that.
I was there. It was very, very hard. I got there, and I believe in my class there were me and maybe four other Black people. Black student. I, of course, was by far the oldest, 37, and
Uh-huh.
my classmates there, some of them came straight from undergrad.
Yeah.
My classroom, she's like super duper smart. So she like graduated high school early. She wasn't even, she was just super smart, super. I don't think she could even drink in law school. And
Mm.
so I have this, and it's law school. And like I got my undergrad, I got a master's degree. And if I'm honest, I kind of slept through both of those degrees. I've always kind of been a good student. I've been a good, reader. I like to read, and I
Book
read
smarts, huh? Yeah.
fairly well. And so I could just do it and get through. Like I did my master's program while I was doing student teaching. So it was
Wow.
boom. But law school,
It was another beast, right?
the mark of the beast, honey. I mean, it was for me anyway. For me, as a 37-year-old woman fighting a felony charge, raising two kids in the midst of COVID,
Yeah, during the pandemic too. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
and they slaughtered Breonna Taylor. It was just a lot.
Yeah.
I lost my cat, girl. I mean,
Oh my
I was almost on my way out of here, girl.
Lord. It was a time. It was a time, but you made it
I
through.
made it. I made it. I made it. In May of 22, I crossed the stage at the Louisville Palace Theater as just a proud person. I tell all these people, honey, no, I was not the one with all the cords and all the medals and the medallions. I made it. I
Wow.
I promise you, I made it. So that's
And
all.
you say something how you wanted to make sure they said your name right or
Oh,
something like that. Tell them that
uh,
you've got to share that story.
I have a true Black American name. My mother named me Ebonee Jamisha Ingram, and then I got married, and my married name was Jones.
Mhm.
And so everyone else, put their long names on, like, because we had a class picture. You get to say what name you wanted, and so I had put that I wanted my whole name on there, and they took one of my names out. So I was already feeling some kind of way about that. And
Ooh.
so when before I walked across the stage, she started to say my name, Ebony, and I wanted her to say it, correctly. And so I was like, no, Ebony, very, very, and she was like, oh, Ebony, Jamisha, Ingram Jones, because
I know
I
that's right.
a very undeniably Black name to be yelled out in the Louisville Palace Theater. And it was mine, and they was gonna put some respect on it. That's all.
Period. Period. And speaking of the young girl with the big dreams and the Black name, you found yourself at a very prestigious law firm in the city. And so I'm sure that you went into this space excited because you have to take the bar exam in order to be able to practice. So take us there, how that all unfolded.
Sure. So I met a wonderful person who allowed me to work at a law firm with before I passed the bar, which was unheard of. A lot of times people don't let you, do that. They want you to have it before. And so I was really grateful for that opportunity, for him to be able to give me, just a chance, really, really,
Right. Right.
and to, not to feel like um the person who hired me, he never felt made me feel as if I was a token per se, because
Yeah.
this gentleman was he's a white male, but he never made me, in my interaction with him, it was never like, let me get this Black face up in here. And it was it I never felt that. I felt that he was really genuine. But as time went on, I'm there as an quote unquote attorney, but everybody knows, that I haven't passed the bar. And so that kind of was isolating for me, because it's kind of something that looms over you, and
So you're
uh,
talking about everybody at the people in the law firm knew that you were there, but you still needed to take the bar exam. to be
And
able.
I needed, and the thing is, Krystal, I had taken the bar exam twice, honey, and failed.
Mm.
Yes, because my life just was, it never stopped. The stuff just kept happening. But I was working there, and it was just a very, very, very it was an isolating, scary, you know, I did then start feeling like, they just got me here for the face, when I initially didn't. And it was, yeah, it was, if I could say, isolating. Um, yeah, it was very isolating.
The
Yeah,
way you it's almost as if in that moment just thinking about it triggered something in you. And I know what that feels like to be only one of just a couple and to feel tolerated sometimes and not so much
that's
celebrated.
the way to put it. That's the best way to put it. Um, yeah, I felt like my supervisor wanted me and was, ready to go, but in a building, in a facility, you kind of, maybe feel tolerated by others, welcomed by some, and, tolerated by others. And with me being, this was probably my first real job outside of the confines of West Louisville, if I'm honest.
There you go. Yeah. Talk about that because I think people don't understand that. Here you are in big, we call it black space. You grew up in West Louisville, you went to an all black high school, you went to an HBCU,
All
St.
black.
Stephen
uh,
Church.
yeah, it was. So I was a black, and so I had my children I sent to private school, and so I think my daughter navigates very well in those mixed spaces. And I don't think that I did terrible. I don't think, I just wasn't used to it. I wasn't comfortable. It wasn't an easy thing for me. Girl, I developed a tick. It was crazy. Just,
Well, you said it isn't, they didn't make it comfortable for you though. So,
well, we'll say this.
well, some, well, you know,
I'll say this because, as I stated before, the man who hired me, I would never, ever, ever say anything um, against him or against anything that would bring him any type of any nothing but good vibes and love and prosperity to him. Um, I will say that being a minority is just that.
yeah,
A minority. And some of the things, something that you just don't think about when you're pursuing these dreams, right?
yeah. That it'll have in you in these spaces that can be extremely uncomfortable. When did you notice the issues began there, though, at the law firm? When did you notice what kind of things were happening that really began to make you uncomfortable?
And I don't want to say just, the law firm. Like I said, I went to law school four of, five. I mean, the one of five or whatever. Just being in that primarily um, non-black space mentally, it's, you don't know, you always feel like, I don't, like there is a secret and nobody's really letting you know all the secrets, you
Yeah,
know. Um, you
yeah,
I was already just, battling with just getting my brain running on all cylinders, and just, just never knowing who you can trust with your story or
Woo.
need, because at this time you got to remember, I'm a 37-year-old mother of two. I am not playing any roles for anybody. I'm coming to school. I'm wearing what I want to, I dress like a black woman. I eat like a black person. I wear my hair like, so I'm not, it was a very stressful space, because some people are vibing with it and some people, I,
Right, right, right.
so
And and I know what that feels like to be in a space. You're kind, but it just seems as if sometimes your mere presence agitates.
Correct.
And don't come in there with a bunch of confidence and
Oh,
that could definitely
mm-mm.
rub some people the
Definitely,
wrong way.
definitely don't have a wardrobe.
Come on.
Definitely don't have more than one talent. I mean, and so it was like I said, and it was like in law school, I had a professor tell me um, we were talking about it was just a very general conversation at the end of class, and she was going around telling people, oh, you're gonna be you're gonna be this because I can see this in you, and you this, and you're this in the class. And at the end of class, she comes to me, and it's just she and she says to me, and I think you're gonna be just fine. You've got street smarts, you're gonna be just fine.
Are you serious, Ebony? And what did you say?
I What do I say? What do you say?
So she went and affirmed everyone else in the class, and when it
For
came to
separate,
you,
like different things that she had identified or not acknowledged about them during the class. um I can be a witness. I wasn't necessarily all the way just gung-ho because first of all, you can't be too slacking in law school because they will call on you whether you're ready or not. They're gonna call your name and you better have something to say, or
right,
gonna get in a question like until your professor gets something, and so you can't be in there willy-nilly. And it was, we were talking about MLK. It was MLK and Coretta Scott King had a case against Boston University, and it was something that I was really interested in, of course, because it was MLK, and I just got to learn a little bit more about the story of his books and how they got to be at Boston University. And there was another case that we had looked over. It was it was a case that had to do with Don King. That
mm-hmm.
was very engaging. And so the things that I felt that I was more comfortable with, of course, I said I wanted to talk about it.
More
And
vocal, yeah.
I didn't know that that possibly could be interpreted as street smart. So, because I to this day I have been trying to think, what is it that I could have done, to make her think that I was like Jenny from the block. I don't, it was like,
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times we act like that you just brush it off, but words can hurt.
it stuck with me because
Yeah, yeah.
street,
Wow.
I'm a church girl. Like,
Yeah.
I am a church school girl. What are you talking about, street smarts? Where's
Wow.
that from?
Wow. Let me say hello to all the viewers that are tuned in right now and those that will be watching on the playback. I am here with Miss Ebonee Ingram Jones, and our conversation today is one that definitely, hits home for a lot of people. The bar, the battle, and being the only one. Ebonee is sharing her story, and we thank everyone who is taking the time to be here. Real quick, Miss Tony Mitch said, family. Tony! And look, we both have, because that Tony, you grew up with him, and Kiri
Uh-huh.
is my cousin. So he says, hello, your crazy, your crazy cousin. And my husband said,
Ah.
you read her rights. Ah, and big shout outs to Nathan, Uncle Nate. He said, I love this tell your story, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's get down into it. Let's go back to your time there at the law firm. You said it was often alienating. Um, didn't feel like you quite fit in. What
Yeah,
did you do during this time to survive? So much was going on. What did you do to survive this time?
honey, it's so funny. Of course, you got to pray.
Yeah.
Um, I would pray and I would cuss and I would cuss I would pray. And I would, sometimes I would just get in my car after work and I would just blast gangster rap. Like I would just blast ESTG. I would just blast Tupac. I would just blast because it was just
Release the yeah. You
and just sometimes, some days I'm riding in there listening to my gospel, and then sometimes I'm blasting Beyonce because you got to keep yourself on the up and up. You got to keep your
yeah.
um settled. You got to encourage yourself in any way you can. And so just yeah, that's I would do that. Of course, I had girlfriends, and I can't say talking to friends, it was different because I was in such a different space, and it was not a lot of people who would understand. Shout out though to Sadiqa Reynolds. She is a real life superhero.
Yeah.
I believe passed the bar the first time. Yeah. She's just an amazing, phenomenal woman.
And so she was a good resource for you while you were.
From beginning to end.
Did
Yeah.
she talk about? Did she have any of these experiences that you were
Oh
dealing with?
no, 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 no. I like I said, Sadiqa is brilliant in more ways than one. But I know people who knew her back when she was in school, and they were like, "Oh, she never studied. She never, she talked, and she was she's just a brilliant mind." And so some people are just those one in a million brains, and I think she should be applauded for that. She's
Absolutely.
just a queen
Abs-
woman.
Absolutely. Louisville is blessed that she decided to call this place
Oh,
home.
definitely. Oh, she stayed far longer than I ever thought she would. Yeah.
Oh, then or longer than we probably deserve.
Now that's what it is. Longer.
Abs-
Yes.
Absolutely. So Ebony, so you encouraged yourself by praying and listening to gangster rap. Talk about this bar situation though.
Mhm.
What's the status of that? Where are you at right now?
Yes. So it's so funny, but I know I have PTSD from that daggone bar. After I failed it the second time, I was going to take it again in February of 2023. I can't remember, 23 or 24. And I got a letter saying that my application to sit for the bar, because you got to apply to take the bar exam, was received. It wasn't received by the deadline. And so I was unable to take the bar. So when I read this, I am like, oh my God, I've got to tell my boss. Because I don't want him to think I'm trying to. I've got to be upfront with him. He's been so kind to me, and he's been so, empathetic, and he's been so. I've got to be as direct as I can about this, and I knew it would probably be, the one thing, and of course, it was at that time that I had to, move on and part ways. But it was never any bitterness. Not for me anyway, with parting in that way, because like I said, it's been so tumultuous with this damn bar. Like I just want,
Yeah.
I,
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it was compounded pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like you're here, you're
oh,
the only black in this space. You already feel uncomfortable. And then you feel like you've got this shroud, like, okay, because nobody wants to feel like the black hire. You know what I'm saying? Although it might be clamoring in the background that I am the DEI hire.
oh, like this job or any other job for that matter. I can do this without passing a bar. That bar is ridiculous. It doesn't even test really what you need as an attorney. The things, it's just a haze. For all my D9 folk, it's a haze. What is law school? It is a haze. It's all about who can thug it out to the end. Same with the bar. It's a very intense 2-day test. One day is all essays, and the other day is all multiple choice. It's a very, very daunting and expensive process. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It,
so
it's a lot. But one thing you said though, when we talked off air, you said you want to talk about failure and how it's okay because, I know what that feels like, but you wanted to talk about that because how many times do we hold our heads down and try to go hide because we feel as if we didn't do what we set out to do?
Yeah. I want everybody to know that failure, people always say failure is not an option. Sometimes failure is your only option, but
Yeah.
not your final option.
Come on.
And that's just kind of what I have to continue to tell myself. Ebony, you have failed, and guess what? It's just what it is. You didn't pass the bar. There's no going back. You can't call the Kentucky Bar Association and say, rescore my test. None of that. You got to take this L, you got to charge it to the game, and you cannot allow it to define you. And I caught myself doing that, the test, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until I talked to my daughter subconsciously, as I had my momentum, getting through law school, and I went to Ghana right after law school, and just, all these great things, and my children were doing well. I was on a high, and just feeling good about my life. Excuse me. But once I was dealing with the bar, even though I knew in my mind the bar wasn't a measure of who I was or my possibility as an attorney or any of that, you subconsciously digest that. And Krystal, I just stopped dreaming. I felt like, and I was okay. Of course, I'm applying for all these jobs, and I to this day hadn't gotten one interview. You understand? With education. So when people tell our children all this mess, I ain't gonna say it's mess because it's not mess, but we need to be a little more intentional about our words when we tell our kids about education, because education is what opens your mind, and it does, and it affords you so many opportunities and you learn so much. But education in America is not gonna be what gets you in the door. I got more degrees than a thermometer, as Red would say. And I am now serving, and proudly serving as a substitute teacher at Perry Elementary.
And we're going to get to that in a bit because you actually said something to me. You said being in that space helped to heal your heart. But Ebony was one of the angels that reached out to me after I got let go there at the station. And we just began to talk. Whenever we talk for hours, but you were ministering to me and I was pouring into you. And I think the biggest thing for me is I can't let them see me sweat, because when God calls you to something, that's not up for discussion with anybody else.
Correct.
And a lot of times his time is not our time, but we've got to understand that if he spoke it, it shall come to pass.
Promises of God are yes and amen.
What you said.
I definitely believe that. I don't believe that I would get through law school under all those crazy circumstances under which I did, that I would not be able to see my dream of being an attorney come to pass. I just don't believe that. I fully believe that my life is crazy and it's gonna work out. You understand?
Let's talk about the heart part and how you were able to go back to JCPS and be in the capacity, as you said, a substitute teacher, Perry Elementary. Talk about, God he has a way, and he'll send you people to speak into your life and to heal you as you are trying to, figure out what's next. He's done it for me. But talk about how Perry Elementary has definitely been your balm.
Yeah. So I began working there. Like I said, I hadn't had a job interview, and y'all know how hard it's been. I was like, I've got to get a job. So finally got a job. Principal Keisha Fulson, just want to holler,
Yes.
awesome baddie. Yes, she is baddie principal. And reached out to her and let her know, of course, I had a background in teaching, and I, told her just a little bit about my background. I just needed some work, but I would be more than happy to work for her. I didn't want to work outside of West Louisville. I wanted to work, within the community, and she welcomed me with open arms. But girl, when I got in there, it was just like a Kwanzaa celebration all year.
Wakanda, right?
I tell people, first of all, the building is brand new. It is a beautiful, beautiful facility. We have a woman at our school. Her name is Miss Rawls. She has spent so much money on like plants and trees and stuff. So we have a beautiful like ambiance in the school, and it's such a warm place. And then when you walk in the front office, is these beautiful Black women at the front desk, and they are just everything. Everybody is just being themselves, and nobody's pressured to be anything else. It's hey girl, a genuine hey girl, a genuine I like your this or that, a genuine nobody looking at me crazy if I decide to wear thigh boots
Come
to
on, because
understand.
that's what we do. Let me
'Cause
tell you what just came. Let me tell you what just came to my spirit, Ebonee. That God put you back into the place that raised you to for you to remember your brilliance, your Black brilliance. Because a lot of times we get in these spaces to where we are the only one, and we almost question, like, what's wrong with me? What is there something wrong with us? And
correct.
he puts you back into a place of beautiful Black brilliance. And it's been healing for you.
Really has, from the kids to the people who work there, because the thing about a school at Perry, if they are there, honey, it's because they want to be there.
Yeah.
It is, they got wonderful grannies, girl. We got singing janitors. It's cute, nice, nice, lovely place. It's just, I love it. Don't let these test scores and that BS fool you all about schools. To all my parents who are considering schools, Perry is a wonderful school, especially if you are prioritizing safety for your Black child.
Yeah.
That more so now than ever. Forget them test scores. That test score don't mean nothing. I promise you, them teachers are teaching. They
Come
teach.
on.
Don't you let nobody tell you that they not, because it's kids can't take no test. That's not how you measure that. You let your children go somewhere where they're going to be safe, where there's going to be some aunties there, and there's going to be some grannies there, and some big sisters there, and they're going to be safe. And that's where I've been. And they, like I said, they made me feel safe, and I was able to breathe and be myself.
You hear that exhale. That
Yeah,
exhale. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I wear a different wig, nobody is gonna, it's gonna be what it is,
They
right?
won't try to touch your hair either, right?
Oh my goodness. They may ask me where I got the hair from, but
Yeah.
you didn't have to touch nobody. And
But
so,
you felt seen, you
oh,
felt understood.
good. I felt, like I said, Keisha, I didn't realize until a month or so ago, she had a professional career as a banker,
As a banker.
got into education. So this is a woman who has layers of expertise and layers of knowledge, and just still a warm home girl. Somebody with, just still a professional girl with good lipstick and good
Come on, Keisha, the name Keisha, period.
like what? Who don't want to work for Keisha? I work,
Right?
and so and
Absolutely. Let me ask if anybody, we've got some people tuned in. If you got any questions or comments for Miss Ebonee, go ahead and put it in the chat. Someone said they loved it. Beautiful Black brilliance. And we cannot forget that. I tell you, I have enjoyed my refuge with my church family and doing things in our community. And it definitely has been healing to me. You're there at Perry now, but that purpose I know is still pushing at you. What is the next step? When are you going to take this bar?
in Jesus' name, I am going to take the bar in February of next year. Like I said, the bar is really expensive, and they only give it to you twice a year, one in July and one in February. And so I won't be able to take the one in July, unfortunately, but I am gunning for the one in February. So anybody that's got any prayers, anybody that's want to send some good vibes, anybody, honey, I'll take it all. I'll take it all. So
Absolutely. And we are touching and agreeing, and we are lifting you up again. God will not give an order that he will not ensure that it comes fulfilled, and it will come to pass. And we're speaking that into your life. Along with you, there were some other people that called me and they said they know what it feels like to work in situations as to where you do feel alienated. What advice would you have to someone that is in that space right now and they are like, oh my gosh, yes, I've experienced all of this? What would you say to that person?
leave. No, I'm just like, no, I'm playing. I'm only half playing because I know people can't just uproot themselves. That's not how life works. You can't
Yeah.
it's just you want the sanctuary, but you can't always have the sanctuary. I would say renew your mind, affirm who you are, even if you are the only person affirming it. Believe what your mama says about you. That's
Oh, yes.
a lot of times I would leave work or school or wherever and say, honey, I don't give a daggone if don't nobody like me. Because unlike a lot of y'all, my mama likes me. My children love me.
Right.
I've had since high school. So either way, I'm winning, and just
Yeah.
all of that in perspective. Don't let, always remember that e- even light is offensive to those who live underground.
Woo. You
So
said it. Yeah.
you can be a light, and just because some people are offended by you, that doesn't mean that you're offensive. It just means they can't handle that, honey.
They can't handle that light.
They're
Absolutely.
the light, and so I, keep that in mind. Keep love yourself. I know that sounds so cliche. Uh, love yourself, and figure out what that means. And it doesn't mean serving everybody else. Loving yourself means so much. Loving yourself, you got to know yourself. Know your
Ooh,
body.
I love that. The bar, the battle, and being the only one. So, in the word and the spirit of Oprah Winfrey, what do you know for sure about your journey? What do you, if you, and I believe in speaking it, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
You know what? It would be funny for me to sit here and say that, because I thoroughly believe that eyes have not seen and ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of
Man,
what God has in store for me. And I believe that. I believe that He is able to do exceedingly
come
abundant.
on.
And so, whatever I'm thinking about, I'm going to let everybody know my passion for children's advocacy and education is more reignited than ever. I am going to law school for the least of these. I'm going to law school for these babies at school who are not being served, who are not being treated right. I am going to law school for the people who are in jail because they weren't given an appropriate education all these years that they were owed. And I'm going to law school to tear Satan's kingdom down. You
Come
understand?
on. Come on.
Um, whatever
Absolutely.
that looks like. I have a whole lot. I have a lot of pieces of me, honey. I would love to have my own judge show. I'll be the next judge. I, it's
I
just
would watch. Wouldn't you guys tune in? I
absolutely,
would definitely watch
yeah. So
all of the things.
I am open. I am so open, especially with my children getting older, and just to see what God can do with that. Because I have such wonderful, smart, and just creative children. So I am still, even though I feel like I am kind of in limbo in life, I have not lost my faith that
Yes.
I have not come this far to just come this far,
And
and
I
that
love that. I love that because the Bible says we only need what? A mustard
A month.
seed. And so, as you are still believing, we are believing with you as well. Miss Leslie Maxey, she says, in the name of Jesus, Ebony, we are praying with you. We sure are. And also Tanya Brady, she says, hey, Ebony and Krystal, Ebony, God has his hands on you. I believe that to be true. Look at that megawatt smile. And so at the end of the day, I claim it and it shall be so. You will go back and you
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
our Claire Huxtable.
And my wardrobe will be getting just like Claire Huxtable. So
Period. Period. Ebony, this has been so refreshing. This has been so uplifting. You are always a vibe. And I'm going to have to bring you on just to be my co host sometimes because I just love it when
I
we
just
get
want
together.
to know I love you, girl. You are real sweet. You are sweet and you are kind. You're not just nice, you are kind and
Oh,
funny and you are bubbly and you are a safe space for me. So I just wanted to tell, okay.
oh, and I mean it, Ebony. I just love you with my whole heart. You are phenomenal. And only thing I can say, because I can speak from a place of no. Trust them with your next, and the best is yet to come. Girl, you're gonna get double for your trouble. You hear me? That third time is gonna be a charm. It's gonna be a charm for me too. The third time is gonna be a charm for me too. And we're gonna do it, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And all to the glory of God.
Amen. Amen. Well, you guys show Ebony some love. Go and put some hearts. How can people keep in contact with you, Ebony? I know you're on Facebook, any other social media platforms people can
Yeah,
follow you?
girl, I'm very rarely on social media. I will give people. I am thinking of some things as far as children's advocacy and consulting and stuff. And if people want to reach out and they have ideas or they want to just reach out on a personal, but no, not a personal, professional level,
You
you
had to make it clear.
can email me at ebony.ingramjones at gmail. So that is EBONNE dot Ingram Jones, INGRAMJONES at gmail.com.
All right, Miss Ebony, thank you so much for joining me. I love you, girl.
Love you more. You have a good one.
You too, as well. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Kandid Conversations with Miss Krystal. I'm just smiling because I just still continue to think about the intentionality of God. We may not understand it, it may not feel good, but in the end, it will work for our good. And in order to know the rest of the story, got to keep moving forward, okay? And I hope this inspired someone that may find themselves in the same situation. Let's come together. Let's stick together because we got, right? All right, let's do this thing again next week, Kandid Land. I love you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.